In 1997, Brazil's under-17 national team would win the World Cup. One of the players would rise above all, as his nickname, given to him when he played for Grêmio's academy, as he was the shortest on the team, would become notorious. He was known as Ronaldinho. The next year, he would be called up to Grêmio's main squad, getting his debut in a Copa Libertadores match against Vasco. His time at Grêmio would go by smoothly, being its main highlight a game in which Ronaldinho would go up against Brazil's national team legend and eventually coach Dunga. Ronaldinho would embarrass him twice with a stupendous dribble and then with a magic flick. These clips would be shown all across Brazil. This, among other incredible displays, would lead Ronaldinho to get called up for Brazil's main squad. His first tournament would be the 1999 Copa America. This massive generation of Brazilian talent surely didn't disappoint, as they brought the trophy home, but Ronaldinho would truly shine just 1 week after, as Brazil qualified for the Confederations Cup, which they'd win as Ronaldinho collected the top scorer and best player awards. These events would push him into a move to PSG. After getting 18 goals in 25 games in the previous season for Grêmio, at PSG he would get his first taste of European football and of playing with some of its big names, Anelka, JJ Okocha and Mauricio Pochettino, among others. He would have a tough time on his first season, coming off the bench most times as he still managed to rack up some goals, despite getting into a confrontation with the coach over whether or not he was focused on his game, since it was the coach's conviction that he was too caught up in the city's nightlife. Regardless of what troubles he was going through at club level, he had assured himself as a first-team player for Brazil. Going into the summer focused as he got his first attempt at World Cup glory, Brazil moved on, getting to the quarterfinals when they would start the game by conceding a goal that would put England in front. Ronaldinho would step up, creating the first goal of the match with an incredible run and an eventual assist for Rivaldo to tie the match. And to end all doubts of his talent, he would score a 40-yard free kick to win the match for Brazil. Two more matches were played, and as Brazil got the best of Germany, they would become World Cup winners. Ronaldinho was just 22 and had already lifted the three most significant international trophies, truly the stuff of legends. Still, it would come for a second season at PSG, which would prove itself inferior to the first, even if Ronaldinho managed to score the league's goal of the season and even a standing ovation in the cup final, which they lost. Since PSG would not manage to qualify for European football, Ronaldinho would decide to move away. In the summer, Brazil would massively disappoint, being knocked out of the Confederations Cup in the group stage. Back at club level, Barcelona would win the race for his signing, as their president had promised to sign one of Beckham, Henry, and Ronaldinho. And as the other two were unavailable, he was forced to outbid all other clubs interested, which led to the signing of Ronaldinho for 30 million euros. At Barcelona, his success was immediate. He dazzled the world of football, as he seemed to have something special to show every time he touched the ball. And those are not my words, but actually Frank Rijkaard's, after Ronaldinho's debut. After Ronaldinho picked up an injury, Barcelona would drop to 11th place in the league. This slump would prove insignificant, next to Ronaldinho's impact on the team, as he would come back to help the team secure a second-place finish and a win at the Bernabeu, which hadn't happened in 7 years. Xavi would credit this moment as the start of the Barcelona rise. Ronaldinho wouldn't be called up to the Copa America, as the coach decided to rest the team and use an experimental reserve team that would still go on to win the tournament, which goes to show how strong Brazil were at the start of the century. The next season would have a better start than the last, and as the year came to an end, Ronaldinho would be named FIFA Player of the Year. Once again, he would receive massive praise from his teammates. This time, Puyol would credit him with bringing back smiles to the Camp Nou after the disappointing seasons his arrival had followed. Regardless, that same year they'd be knocked out of the Champions League by Chelsea. This wouldn't be enough to stop Ronaldinho from sharing his magic with the world, as he'd score both of Barcelona's goals, including his famous toe-poke goal from outside the box. Domestically, it helped Barcelona finally win La Liga again, which hadn't happened in 6 years. Despite not participating in the previous Copa America, he'd be called up for the Confederations Cup, where he'd score 3 goals, becoming the all-time top scorer of the tournament and getting the finals Man of the Match award. Once again, he maintained his form as the season started, earning himself a second consecutive FIFA Player of the Year award and even France Football's Ballon d'Or. This next season would be one of his best. Ronaldinho was truly at his peak. In El Clásico, he would score 2 beautiful goals, to which the opposition fans had no other choice but to stand up and applaud. This had only happened once in history and to no other than Diego Armando Maradona. In the Champions League, it proved himself as Barcelona's star player, being heavily linked to each victory in the knockout stages of the tournament, eventually beating Arsenal in the finals to give Ronaldinho his awaited Champions League trophy. His performances would earn him his third consecutive UEFA Player of the Season, and domestically they would lock the title once again, beating Real by a staggering 12 points. The 2006 World Cup would follow, and in what can only be described as a team who had settled for their previous achievements, Brazil would get knocked out by France in a match where they only managed to get a single shot on target. To aggravate the situation, Ronaldinho would join Adriano in a quest to prove their critics right, as they would throw a gigantic party days after disappointing their nation, who would not be kind to Ronaldinho as they ended up destroying one of his statues. This would represent a massive turning point in Ronaldinho's career. The man seemed to have won it all and lost his hunger for competitiveness, living out the rest of his career while only displaying glimpses of his brilliance but never achieving what he had previously done. One of these glimpses would be a brilliant bicycle kick goal against Villarreal. Regardless, the season would end with Barcelona only managing second place in La Liga and choking the Club World Cup final in what would be Ronaldinho's first season at Spain with no trophies. To make matters worse, the next season would be plagued by injuries, being by far his worst, and he'd tearfully leave for AC Milan as he told the fans his time at Barcelona had been the best time of his life. He would find AC Milan in the process of rebuilding their team as the players who were left from their start of the century success were heading towards retirement, such as Maldini, Nesta, Gattuso, Inzaghi and Shevchenko. Regardless, this team would still include lots of players in good form, such as Kaká, Beckham, Alexandre Pato, and Andrea Pirlo, who despite his age still had a long career ahead of him. This wouldn't be enough to propel Ronaldinho to find his form once again, as he still struggled with fitness and his results would disappoint despite the few moments where his talent shined through. His second season in Italy would be his best there, as the coach moved him to a new role on the wing. He would manage to finish as top assist maker in the Serie A, even getting a hat-trick midway in the season, which followed an heroic performance against Juventus in which he scored twice, leading some to believe his form was back. Despite this, AC Milan would finish third. In the summer, he would not be called up to the World Cup. To this day, many Brazilians feel like it was due to some animosity between him and Dunga, who was the Brazilian coach at the time. His last season would see new signing Ibrahimovic, who we've covered on this series already, and Rubinho coming to the team, but Ronaldinho decided to retire from European football midway through the season, leaving AC Milan for Flamengo, which would lead the fans of his childhood club Grêmio to resent him for a long time. In his first and single season there, he would only win some regional trophies and would eventually leave for another Brazilian club, this time Atlético Mineiro, as Flamengo failed to be able to pay him his salary for 4 months. His time there would be far more successful, as the club finished second in his first year and he won the Player of the Season award. The second season would be even better, as he led the club to their first ever Copa dos Libertadores, being involved in 11 goals throughout the tournament as they managed their way through 2 consecutive 2-0 comebacks in both the semi-final and final. For this, he would win South American Player of the Year. He'd play a third season there, which would be most notable for winning the Recopa Sudamericana. Before retiring, he would play for 2 more clubs for very short periods of time. First 1 season at the Mexican League before coming back to Brazil, where this time he would play for Fluminense, where he failed to impress, slowly fading, being dropped from the team, which would make it clear this would lead to his official retirement. Ronaldinho is probably the most widely admired player of all time. You rarely hear a single piece of criticism being delivered this way. Despite this, he is also a great example that talent isn't enough in the battle to becoming the greatest of all time. Dancing through defenses as if they were random kids from his hometown, fearlessly taking risks and delivering magic to the audience, Ronaldinho is closer to being a myth, a part of football itself, than an actual living, breathing player. The name has preceded the human in what has become the symbol of a generation using football to get some magic into their lives. Getting into our ranking system, it will first be judged on his finishing, which was wildly impressive, especially from set pieces. Despite this, he never focused his game on this aspect, so he will fall short of the perfect score, getting a 9 out of 10. Then, we should get into his playmaking, where he surely shined, but once again fell short of becoming known as one of the greatest, so he gets another 9 out of 10. When it comes to dribbling, there's absolutely no arguing. I doubt a single person will think otherwise. He should get a 10 out of 10. In terms of speed and physicality, he was very fast, but he was constantly having injury problems and he surely wasn't the strongest of players, which should get him a 6 out of 10. Finally, his mentality. Arguably the worst part of his game, he had no determination, no professionalism, but he did have a childlike fearlessness to him that made him dangerous. For this, he will get a 4 out of 10. The second part will focus on his legacy, being its first attribute, consistency, which gets him a 9 out of 10, as he always played magnificently, regardless of the stage. Despite this, he did drop off significantly in the second part of his career. The second attribute is flair, which is simply the greatest of all time in this attribute. It was brilliant, every touch was pure art, and he gets another 10 out of 10. Getting into his magnificent trophy cabinet, he won every major trophy possible in his career, even if he only won most of them once. The diversity is off the charts, and he gets another 10 out of 10. This leads us to another of his worst traits. When it comes to longevity, he massively disappointed, only staying at the top of European football for 7 seasons, in which he failed to perform up to standard in about half, as he seemed to lose his hunger. He gets a 3 out of 10. Finally, the icon factor, and I will put this one simply. Every single kid wanted to be Ronaldinho. I had his shirt, I begged my parents for his cleats, and a ball that had his name on it. I spent days on my backyard trying to learn how to dribble like him. He's in the highest tier of iconic, and he gets a 10 out of 10. This means that he will become our new number 1 ranked player with a total of 80 out of 100, which proves how much he really does disappoint in certain aspects, and it is a very low score for someone who just got 4 perfect scores in 4 different traits. Regardless, here's how he ranks up next to the other players we've judged. So this is it, the Ronaldinho episode. I've been really looking forward for this one. I think I did a really good job. I managed to keep it shorter. I've been really trying to do that. The thumbnail looks pretty great. I really like what I did with the thumbnail. I hope you enjoyed everything as much as I did, and that you'll be here for the next episode. See you next time.